I thought moving into a suburban neighborhood meant barbecues, lemonade stands, and neighborly good mornings. What I didn't realize was that I was basically signing up for HOA Survivor. Hunger Games Edition. My crime? A single garden gnome. Not a giant neon monster gnome. Not a political protest gnome. Just a cheerful little stone dude holding a lantern by my walkway. 3 days after I set him out, a folded piece of paper appeared on my porch. It was stamped Urgent HOA Notice in big red block letters, like a nuclear alert. The letter claimed, all lawn ornaments must conform to community-approved aesthetics. Your gnome violates Section 14, subsection C, line 7. I laughed. My gnome had bigger legal paperwork than my mortgage. At the bottom, in scratchy cursive, was the HOA president's signature, Karen A. Whitmore. I swear the A stood for absolute tyrant. I figured it was a mistake, so I emailed her. What I got back was a novel-long reply about property value degradation and how gnomes attract rodents. Excuse me? Last I checked, rats weren't applying for herbs inside my ceramic statue. That was the start. The next week, a fine slipped into my mailbox, $50. For the gnome. They seriously fined me more than my Netflix subscription over a stone lawn buddy. I chuckled, paid it, and thought, okay, it's just a one-time HOA quirk. Oh boy, if only I knew. That gnome was about to become the opening battle in a war I didn't sign up for. Karen didn't just run the HOA. She reigned over it like some suburban dictator. You know the type, pearl necklace, always clutching a clipboard, whispering about property standards, like she was running the Pentagon. She started popping up at random times around my yard. If my trash can wasn't pulled in within 12 minutes of pickup, I'd hear, "Sir, your bin is a violation." Page 17, line 3 of the guidelines. She quoted bylaws like they were Bible verses. One day, she rang my doorbell at 7 a.m. to complain that my mailbox was too glossy. Apparently, the approved shade of black was matte HOA Midnight. Mine was just black. When I asked if I could see the full rulebook, she acted like it was the Dead Sea Scrolls. The bylaws are confidential unless formally requested at the next board meeting. Confidential? Lady, it's a PDF, not nuclear launch codes. At this point, neighbors started whispering to me. One guy muttered, "She fined me for wind chimes." Said they were noise pollution. Another said, "She made my wife repaint the garage door 3 times because the shade of white wasn't HOA approved." Cloud whisper. Karen thrived on power tripping over garden hoses, wreaths, and mailboxes. My gnome had apparently triggered her HOA radar. And now, every move I made was under surveillance. Still, I tried to keep it cool, calm, rational. I wasn't about to get dragged into petty drama over lawn decor. But Karen wasn't done with me. Not even close. If you think junk mail is bad, try living under Karen's HOA. Every week, I found some passive-aggressive letters slipped into my mailbox. They came on cheap paper, written in Comic Sans, as if that made the tyranny cuter. Letter number 1. Dear resident, your gnome has been observed at a non-regulation angle of 17 degrees. Please realign. Failure to comply may result in further fines. Yes. They measured the tilt of my gnome. Letter number 2. Dear resident, your grass appears greener than the community standard. Artificial enhancement suspected. Submit soil samples within 5 days. So now, apparently, I was running a drug cartel for fertilizer. Letter number 3. Dear resident, please remove your daughter's chalk drawings from the sidewalk. They degrade the uniformity of the neighborhood. That one sent me over the edge. My little girl had drawn hearts and rainbows in front of our house, and Karen decided it was a crime against uniformity. I posted the letter on the neighborhood Facebook page with the caption, "Breaking news. HOA bans happiness." Within an hour, half the neighborhood was roasting Karen in the comments. Someone even made a meme of her face on the Wicked Witch of the West. That was the first time I realized people were tired of her. But no one wanted to take her on directly. Well, nobody but me. The fines escalated. $50 for the gnome. $75 for my lawn being too lush. $100 because my daughter's bike was left visible on the driveway. I started documenting everything. Every letter, every interaction, every ridiculous accusation. I even bought a little body cam I clipped to my shirt when she came knocking. One day, I caught her sneaking onto my yard with a measuring tape. She was literally measuring the height of my grass blades. "Karen," I said, stepping out with my coffee. "Need help measuring? I've got a laser level in the garage." She huffed, scribbled on her clipboard, and stormed off. That night, I dug into the HOA bylaws. Buried in the fine print, I found this gem. Board members shall not use HOA funds for personal benefit, nor enforce rules not ratified by a majority vote. Guess what? Half of Karen's rules weren't even approved. And I had receipts. Even better. I found out Karen had built herself a deck in her backyard last summer. No permits, no approval, no inspection. A clear violation of the very bylaws she shoved down everyone's throat. The hypocrisy was too sweet to ignore. I was ready to expose her. But first, Karen decided to crank things up from annoying to dangerous. It was a Saturday afternoon. My daughter was riding her scooter in front of the house while I grilled burgers. Life felt normal for once. That's when a black SUV rolled up. Two guys stepped out wearing tactical-looking uniforms that read, HOA Security. They had fake badges, radios, even utility belts. I thought I was in some weird skit. "Sir," one said, "we've had reports of non-compliance on this property." Non-compliance? What was this, North Korea? They marched into my driveway like they had authority. My daughter, scared, tried to move her scooter out of the way. That's when one of them, backing up carelessly, rolled the SUV tire over the scooter. My little girl tripped and ended up pinned under the bumper. I dropped the spatula, heart exploding. "Hey, get off her!" I roared. They froze, realizing they'd messed up. But instead of helping, one mumbled, "Sir, stand back. We're conducting an enforcement action." That was it. Calm, reasonable homeowner mode switched off. Navy SEAL dad mode engaged. I yanked my daughter free and checked her leg, bruised, but not broken. Then I looked up at these wannabe cops. "Boys," I said, voice low. "You just pinned my daughter under your SUV. You have 3 seconds to leave before this becomes a federal incident." Spoiler. They didn't leave. Here's the thing. Once a SEAL, always a SEAL. I don't brag about my past, but when my kid's safety is on the line, that switch flips instantly. The SUV tried to back out fast. I stepped right into their line, drew my sidearm, yes, licensed and legal, and shouted, "Stop the vehicle. Now." The driver froze mid-reverse, hands shaking on the wheel. My neighbors were peeking from their blinds, phones recording. Karen herself came speed-walking down the street in her floral blouse, like she was about to supervise. "What on earth are you doing?" she screeched at me. "What am I doing?" I barked. "Your goons just ran over my daughter's scooter and nearly crushed her. What the hell is HOA security anyway?" Karen stammered. They're authorized enforcement officers." "Authorized by who?" I cut her off. Because the state of redacted sure as hell didn't deputize these clowns. The two men scrambled back into the SUV and peeled off, tires screeching. My neighbors flooded out of their homes. Someone yelled, "Call the real cops." I held my daughter close, still shaking with rage but keeping calm for her sake. That was the moment everything changed. The HOA wasn't just petty anymore. They were reckless, dangerous, and out of control. And I was done playing nice. By Sunday morning, the neighborhood grapevine had done its job better than CNN. Everyone knew what happened. Karen's fake cops pinned a kid under an SUV. That headline practically wrote itself. I couldn't even step outside without a neighbor stopping me. Mrs. Patel from across the street came over, clutching her yoga mat like a weapon. She fined me for having a welcome mat that said "Hi there," she hissed. Said it wasn't formal enough. Now she's sending thugs after kids? I'm done. Another dad, usually the quiet type, muttered. She made me repaint my shutters because they weren't the right shade of beige. Pace. Men. Do you know how many shades of beige there are? Suddenly, it wasn't just my fight. People were unloading years of pent-up HOA trauma. Everyone had their own Karen horror story. And now they finally had the guts to say it out loud. The neighborhood Facebook group was basically on fire. Someone made a poll titled, "Should Karen resign?" Within 2 hours, It had 87 votes for yes and 1 no. I'm pretty sure that was Karen's burner account. Karen tried to spin it. She posted, "Certain residents are exaggerating. HOA security is a necessary measure to maintain law and order." Law and order? Lady, this isn't Gotham City. It's a cul-de-sac with a lemonade stand. For the first time, people weren't rolling their eyes and paying the fines. They were angry. They were talking. And most importantly, they were rallying. Karen had ruled by intimidation. But now the spell was broken. And when a whole neighborhood turns on you, that's when the real fight begins. I treated the upcoming HOA meeting like a military op. First, evidence. I printed every ridiculous violation letter, highlighted in neon yellow. I pulled up the HOA bylaws, comparing her rules to the actual approved ones. I even had pictures of her illegal deck. Second, witnesses. Neighbors lined up, ready to testify about fines for bird feeders, flags, and even seasonal doormats. One guy had been fined $200 because his pumpkin wasn't symmetrical enough. Third, strategy. I wasn't just going to expose her hypocrisy. I was going to dismantle her entire fake regime in front of the community. The night before, Karen slipped another letter under my door. Final notice. Due to repeated hostility toward HOA security, you are in violation of Section 22, subsection A. You may face removal from the neighborhood. She actually threatened to evict me from the house I own. That letter was the cherry on top of my evidence stack. I barely slept. My daughter hugged her gnome before bed like it was a war medal. Tomorrow, we weren't just defending a lawn ornament. We were taking back the neighborhood. The community center was packed. Folding chairs filled with angry parents, retirees clutching popcorn, and teenagers live-streaming on TikTok. At the front, Karen sat at the board's table, flanked by her loyal yes-men. She smiled that smug HOA Karen smile, the kind that said, "I own you all." "Order," she called, banging a tiny wooden gavel like she was Judge Judy. Tonight's agenda: maintaining community standards and addressing certain false allegations. I raised my hand immediately. Point of order. I'd like to present documented evidence regarding HOA misconduct. Gasps. Murmurs. Karen's eyes narrowed. "You will wait until the end, sir," she snapped. "Actually," I replied, holding up the bylaws, per Section 5, subsection D. Any member may request floor time at the start of a meeting. Shall I read it aloud? The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. Karen's face went red. "Fine," she hissed. "Proceed." I walked up front, dropped a fat binder on the table, and began. "Ladies and gentlemen, here are the fines I've received. $50 for a gnome, $100 because my daughter rode her bike, and most recently, an attempt to evict me for protecting my child from fake cops." The audience booed. Someone shouted, "Shame." Karen shifted uncomfortably. Her yes-men avoided eye contact. And I was just getting started. I flipped to the next section of my binder. Photos. "This," I said, holding one up, "is Karen's deck. Built last year. No permits. No board approval. Violation of Section 9, subsection B." Gasps again. Karen stammered, That's different." "Different how?" I shot back. "Because when my daughter draws chalk hearts, it's a violation. But when you break construction laws, it's fine." Applause thundered. Even the old guy in the back yelled, "Busted." I showed more. Bodycam footage of her measuring my grass, screenshots of her Comic Sans violation letters, and finally, a printed screenshot of her Facebook post calling us ungrateful peasants who don't respect order. Neighbors erupted. One mom stood and shouted, "You fine me $50 for leaving my stroller on the porch. Meanwhile, you've been stealing our dues for your so-called security squad." That's when I played the crown jewel, the video of the SUV incident. The room went dead silent as everyone saw my daughter pinned under the bumper, me pulling her out, and the fake officers scrambling. Karen tried to cut the projector cord, but it was too late. The room wasn't just against her now. It was ready to burn her entire regime down. Karen slammed her gavel like a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Lies. All lies," she screeched. Her voice cracked so high-pitched I swear only the neighbor's dog understood her. One of her board members leaned over and whispered, Karen, the video's real. He looked ready to crawl under the table. She doubled down. Those men were trained professionals. My deck is a personal matter. And this so-called evidence is slander. The crowd booed so loud the walls shook. Someone yelled, "Resign already." Karen grabbed the mic, voice trembling. "If I go down, this whole HOA goes down with me. You people need structure. You need me. Need you." A neighbor shouted. "Lady, I'd rather let raccoons run this place." Laughter roared. Karen tried to storm out, but the board blocked her. One member, finally growing a spine, said, "Actually, per Section 3, subsection F, any board member may call for an emergency removal vote." "Seconded," another said. Karen's eyes went wide. "You wouldn't dare." "Vote," the crowd chanted. "Vote, vote, vote." She realized she was cornered. No clipboard, no Comic Sans letter, no fake cops could save her now. And for once she had no power. Hands shot up across the room. Out of 47 members present, 45 voted remove. 2 abstained, probably her cousins. It was unanimous. Karen was officially stripped of her presidency. The look on her face could curdle milk. She sputtered, "This isn't over. You'll regret this," before storming out, tripping over the extension cord on her way. Applause shook the room. Neighbors hugged each other like they'd just been freed from a dictatorship. One guy popped open a soda and toasted, "To freedom from Karen." The board immediately moved to abolish half her ridiculous rules. Gnomes. Allowed. Chalk drawings? Encouraged. Lawn color? Nobody cares. As for the fake cops, the board promised a full investigation. Rumor had it Karen had been paying them from HOA funds. That little stunt might even land her in court. When it was all over, my daughter placed her gnome proudly back in the yard. She even tied a little victory ribbon on it. We'd won. Life after Karen felt like breathing fresh air. No more letters. No more stalker measuring tape visits. My lawn could finally just be a lawn. Neighbors actually started enjoying themselves. Kids chalked up the sidewalks. One family set out 6 gnomes in solidarity. Someone even spray-painted a mailbox with glitter just to see if anyone cared. Spoiler, no one did. The board, now under sane leadership, refunded a bunch of bogus fines. They even sent me a formal apology for the SUV incident. Real cops opened an investigation into Karen's security team. Last I heard, those guys were facing charges for impersonating officers. And Karen? She moved out. Couldn't stand living in a neighborhood where people finally stood up to her. Rumor is she tried to run for president of another HOA downstate. Good luck to them. As for me, I still live here. Calm, reasonable homeowner. Navy SEAL dad. The guy with the infamous gnome. Every time I see it glowing at night, I smile. It's more than a garden decoration now. It's a reminder. A reminder that bullies, no matter how powerful they seem, crumble when people stand together. And sometimes, all it takes to start a revolution is a little stone gnome.